Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is some kind of bowl. And I'm using a round one here, and we're going to reuse this many times. So this one I got at Michael's for like $1 something. And we need to get the sticker off, so I'm just going to take my, if I can find it, my old blade. Where is it? Where is my blade? Don't you love when they disappear on you? Ah, there it is. Sorry, I bumped the camera. So I'm going to take my old blade and just kind of work this sticker off, just like you would a razor blade, like on your car. I have cut my pointer finger, which makes it hard. Because I don't want to leave this sticker on and have paper on the inside of my bowl. Now, we are going to paint the inside of our bowl because I've ran out of a good bunch of scrap clay already, because I've made 4 bowls already. And I want to make 2. So I'm going to have to take the rest of my scrap clay to make this base and then add a color to it. For the inside, I'm going to use all these scrap clays and I'm going to mix gold to it. And that way, because I have a bunch of gold, more than any other color, I have more gold. So I'm going to make the inside gold, but we can always paint it if it's an ugly color, or if we want it to match or look any kind of differently. I have a lot of metallic acrylic paints that we can use to paint the inside later. Let me finish getting this off camera, because, well, it's almost there. Careful when you're doing this. But this blade, like I said, is really old. This is my oldest blade I have, and I haven't sharpened it recently, so it's pretty dull. Okay, that's probably good enough. Okay, so on this bowl, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's these lines going across. Like, can you see one there? And that's how I knew where to put it. Now, what I did on my first bowl is drew lines because, and which will make sense later, I'm not going to keep this vessel. I'm not going to keep it inside of here. I'm going to take it out. So we need to make this bowl in 2 parts, because if we wrap a whole layer of clay around this, we won't be able to get it off. So what I did was I looked for one of those lines, and I can see one here, and it's hard because I'm holding it at a weird angle. So let me see if I can get the light to show it for myself. I can see a line here. So we're going to just, I'm doing it on the outside first, but then I'll do it on the inside. And that's where I know how to cut. But I can see right here, there's like a, see, you could see it right there. There's like a, oh, I went up a little bit. Hang on, I lost it. But just so you have like a rough, I mean, you could measure all the way around, like from here to here, and try to get it. I did go up a little bit, didn't I? Let me go back to the beginning. Just so I have a rough line of where I'm going to cut this. So both parts cut around the same. Okay, and then I'm going to trace it on the inside as well. And that one will come off less. It doesn't need to be perfect, but that way, try to make it. I mean, I don't really care quite much, but you can measure up 1.5 inches, 2 inches, whatever you want from the end. Now this bowl doesn't have a lip on the bottom. It's flat, you know, it goes straight down. But definitely try this with different kinds of containers. All I could find close by is my red permanent marker. Okay, so now it's traced on the inside too. So our bowl's ready. And this will give us roughly the same size container I already showed you, because I have the same bowl. I would just decided to use the new one So I have a bunch of scrap clays here, but these are the last bits of scrap clays, and you need quite a bit. So I have this like green pearl one, a little bit of gold, this one, and then this pink. And then I have this gold that I made for my base last time. And I'm going to take some more, because you do need a good amount. I'm going to take some more of this gold that I have. And we're going to try to attempt to get the biggest sheet we can. Now I use an Atlas 150 Wellness, and it's only like 6 inches wide. It's not that wide of a pasta machine. So I try to fill up my entire pasta machine with this sheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is mix all these clays together until I get myself a nice sheet that we can coat over this whole thing, from here down across the whole thing. So let me condition all of these up, get them all mixed up till I have a nice big sheet. Well, I'll probably only use half of this right now. Like if I do, that's stiff. But I want the color to be even. You know, so if I mix all these junk colors in, this is gold, this is gold. And you'll see, it'll make sense in a little bit. So I'll mix this half up for one half. I'll mix this half up for our second bake. And again, it'll make more sense once you see what we're doing. So basically, I just got to work it down into a thin enough sheet to where I can get it in my pasta machine and then start conditioning it. And hopefully we'll get some kind of gold tone. I mean, that's what I did with this gold tone here, is I mixed a bunch of this green. I had a bunch of the green, mixed it in, came up with this cool kind of antique-y gold tone. So I'm going to mix this pink and then the rest of the green and the gray in with it, and we'll see what kind of gold tone we get, but get us a nice, hopefully, tone similar to this. So I'm just going to keep working it until it's thin enough to stick in my machine, and then I'll work it in my machine a bunch, get it all mixed to where it's like a homogeneous mix, a nice even mix, and then yeah, and then we'll make a nice flat sheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just mix this up in my pasta machine on the thickest setting until it all comes together, and then when I'm done, I'll be right back. So now I have both halves rolled out, and they are two different tones, so I'm going to mix them all together now that they're both flat enough to put through my machine. So I'm going to mix them all together until I have one really big sheet, and as wide as I can possibly get it in my pasta machine. Hopefully it's as wide as my pasta machine is. So, you know, if my two rollers are here and my machine goes to here, I want to fill up my whole machine so I have as wide of a sheet as you can go. If you have a wider pasta machine, great. That will work awesome for this. I do not. I wish they made the 150 a little wider, but I think it's only like from the dial end to the crank end. Yeah, it's 6 inches wide. So I want to make this sheet as wide as I possibly can. Okay, so I'm going to mix these two together so I have one color, because this one's more pink and this one's more gold, so I want to mix them together. So I just put them through once, and now they're stuck together. I'm going to just keep folding it, and eventually it will get wide enough to fill up my machine. And when it's in that stage, I'm going to take it from a 0 to a setting 2, I believe, is how thick I've been making my bowls. well, I'm pointing to my bowl, but you can't see it. I think my base has been a setting 2 on my pasta machine. So I'll mix this the rest of the way. I'll keep just folding it in half and letting it get wider and wider. And while it's doing that, the colors will mix. And then I'll take it down to a setting 2, and I'll be back when that's there. Okay, so now I have this nice beautiful sheet. It's this goldy tone. And I'm going to cut it probably in half. We're going to use half now, half later. And it's on a setting 2, thickness-wise, my atlas. Okay, and now what we're going to do is just lay it on our bowl. And I'm going to make the bottom part of the bowl first. So I'm going to lay it on and try to center it, because I can get longer this way, but because my machine's only this wide, I can't get longer that way. You could also probably, if you have a bigger vessel than this, you know, cut a strip and wrap it around it this way. You know, if you had like a long 2-inch strip, wrap it around and then do a separate base. But my bowl, I'm lucky enough with this bowl that I can just put a sheet on there. So first I'm just going to push out the air from the bottom before I lay it down all the way on the sides. Try to get the bottom airless. Okay, and see on my sides I just barely have enough to make it to that line, which is why I was making it wide enough. So then we'll just kind of smooth it down over the sides. We'll force it over the sides. Try to keep the air out if you can. And at some point you may get a fold, but that's okay. You can kind of just smooth it off. Usually my last area I get kind of a fold going on. And I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to this. You know, as you guys know, when it comes to clay, I feel more free about letting it just do its thing, which I like that. Oops, sorry, I keep moving out of the shot. So I'm just kind of fudging it so it gets around. And then once it's pretty good, I'm just going to cut the excess off, and that's why we have the line. So start off by just cutting your big excess off, you know, get that out of your way. And then we'll fussy cut as good as we can. See? Just get the big excess off. And then, because we have a line on the inside, because if you just have a line on the outside, you can't really see it. I mean, you can see where you drew through the glass, but it might wash it off. The more bowls you make, the outside might rub off. You know, this may eventually rub off. So that's why I drew one on the inside. So I'm going to just kind of get as good as I can, going around the inside, following my line as good as I can. I'm better off going higher than lower, because I can always take more. And you can see in there the blade making a score mark. And again, you're better off going a little higher. If it's a little uneven, we'll sand it later. So both pieces will fit together. So we're going to have to make another one of these. Once we put the veneer on the outside, you won't really notice if there's a little gap between your two bowls. So now I'm just refining it a little bit. So I did go lower there for sure. And I'm not perfect at this, and that's okay. Let's see here. I mean, Kalyana did a really good. She's really precise, and I'm not. Not when it comes to clay. Which is why I enjoy doing clay so much, because it's a nice relaxing release thing for me. I'm not too detailed. And I cut up at an angle, so I'm just trying to cut it straight across. For some reason I had my blade at an angle. When I'm on camera, the camera gets in the way. See how it slants up there? I'm just trying to cut off that inner angle. But when I sand it later, it will flatten that out too. But this is your base, so you want it to be as nice as you possibly can get it. And if you want to spend a lot more time nitpicking, go for it. I mean, because the more perfect you do get it, the easier, the less sanding you have to do, the easier it is. This side definitely drops down right there. It's hard on a round to get it perfect, perfect, perfect. So if you measured your line more perfectly and followed your line more exactly, it'd probably be better. But anyways, just smooth it off nicely, and then we're going to bake this one. Oh, is that an air bubble in there? Yeah, there's a little air bubble right there. So I'm just going to take a needle, give it somewhere to go, the air. And then I'm going to be smoothing this off. As much as I can, I'm just using my palm. But you do want both bowls to end roughly on the same part, because if you end more on the on this part of the bowl, they're not going to, the two pieces won't fit together as well. So that's why I had a line so they roughly end at the same curvature on the bowl. Both pieces that we're going to put together, because once we make the top part of our bowl, then we'll seam them together. And I've made 4 bowls with the same glass, and they're very sturdy. So what I'll do is I'll bake this at 275, because mainly all my scraps are primo. I'll bake it at 275 in my oven for only about 30 minutes, because I'm going to be baking this over and over, and my final bake I'll do a full hour. But just to get this firm and set up, I'm going to do 30 to 40 minutes, and I will bake it on a tile. There goes on I had a new pack of stamps here that I wanted to look at. I'm going to put it on my tile like this in my toaster oven, and then I'm just going to tent the whole thing with a piece of tin foil. And that way, because this is going to be the bottom of our bowl, the bottom is going to be nice and flat, rather than baking it like this. You know, you don't know if there's a bubble is going to pop up here or anything, so I'm going to bake it, this part, the base part, like this, okay, for about a half hour. And when this is done, I'm going to lay another sheet on it, and I'll show you what we'll do. I'm going to lay it on the same exact way, so we'll have this thing when I'm done and this glass is cooled. I'll show you how to take it off, and then I'll lay another sheet on. I'll show you how we'll open a hole for our opening. Okay, so I'll be back when that's done baking. Okay, so it's out of the oven. It's still quite hot, but I'm going to take it off, and because I want to get this done before I go to dinner with my in-laws, I have 2 of these bowls. This is the one I've used a whole bunch of times. So I'm going to take it off and I'm going to set it on this one so it doesn't disshape itself. So literally, when it's cool, just pull it off. And the glass will cool off faster if I get it off of here. Hot. Actually, this one might be wider than that one. Yeah, that one's wider, so I'm going to leave it on this one for a few more minutes, let it cool off, okay? And then once it's cooled off, hot, I'm going to lay the other sheet on just like I did before. Just lay it flat on like this, so it looks like this, and I'll cut it down to size, and then I'll show you what we'll do next, okay? I guess these bowls might be slightly different. I was hoping they were the same, but I don't think they are. They're just like some kind of candle holder or something. I got them at Michael's. Actually, someone gave me that first one, and then I bought another one, and I was hoping it was the same, but I don't think it is exactly the same. Oh, this clay had some dots in it. That's weird. Must have been something in my clay to put these little speckles, but that's okay. I mean, that's what the inside will look like unless we paint it. We could sand it, but I'm not spending that time sanding it. We have enough sanding to do once this is completely done anyways. So let me just let this cool a little bit more. Maybe I'll run it under some water to cool it off faster. And then, yeah, I'll be back. Okay, so here's the half we made. And here is another half I just laid on. Okay, this will make up our bowl. But when we put these two together, if I leave it like this, we just have a circle. So we need to make an opening. So I'm going to take a circle cutter, any size you want for your opening, and we're going to set this on the top. And definitely kind of look at it and see if it's, try to get it as centered as possible. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. This is homemade. You know, it's not made by machine. So I do like, I mean, I'd love my things to look perfect, but I don't mind if they look a little rustic. And then, oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. Cut that out. And then just peel it out. And all we will do is put this in the oven again for another, I think I did 35 minutes on this one, so we'll do 35 minutes again. And that way, then we can begin hopefully seaming them together before I have to go to dinner. Leave for dinner with my in-laws. So let me get this in the oven right now. I mean, you could smooth this off now, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just deal with it later. And that's going to be my opening. That might have been bigger than what I did the other openings at. It's a little off center, but is that bigger than my other openings and my other bowls? No, I think it's the same size. Okay, let me get it in the oven. I'll be back. Oh, and this time I'm going to bake it on a tile down like this, and I will tint because I don't want this lip to flatten out at all. So I'm going to have it up just like this in my oven, and I'm going to tint it with some tin foil. This one we put down, so we had a nice flat base, but this one I'm going to put up because I don't want to distort anything. Got a couple fingerprints in there and stuff, but that won't really matter because we're going to place a veneer on this. Giving it one last smooth. And you can spend a lot of time smoothing it and getting it all, I just got my nail on it somewhere, getting it all perfect. I had to redo my lines because when I ran this under water and then dried it off, my permanent marker came off. So before it fully came off, I redrew my line. So now hopefully they should be close to the same height. You know? So anyways, I'll be back when that's done. Okay, so while that is baking, I'm going to get the next part ready. And that's the strip that we're going to use to seam these two together. So we're going to take all these scraps, and I want to make 2 bowls, so I'm going to still need more. I'll probably have to make another batch of this clay. because I want 2 matching bowls. But we're going to take some of these scraps and we're going to make a really long strip. And I think I put it on setting 3 on my pasta machine. You don't need a crazy thick strip, but you want a strip that we're going to seam both bowls together. So I'm going to set this in my machine. And I'm just going to work it until it's kind of all together. I got to make sure I have enough. Oh, I might need to add some more. Might need to add a little bit more to this batch. Once I thin it out, it'll probably actually stretch it out enough, but let me add a little bit more. And I'm going to keep running this through until we have a nice strip. This color would actually probably make a nice mica shift too. So you can always take gold, like if you wanted a pinkier gold, and add some pink clay to it, just like we did, or we're going to do to my mica clay that I'm going to use for the veneer. But you can just take, like say you only have gold or silver. Well, why can't you tint the gold, the regular gold, with a pink, or probably a pink with gold, but you can tilt the silver with blue or green to give it a different tone and get a mica shift that way. Because we tilted this with green and pink and everything, all kinds of scrap clays in here. And it's still, and those were not mica scrap clays, and it's still getting a nice shift. So anyways, I'm going to keep rolling this through. Till it all comes together nicely. And we don't need a really fat sheet. So what I'm probably going to do is just fold these ends in some to make it thinner. I mean, we're going to cut it too, but this will thin it out and make it a little longer. And I didn't hang on to it, so it separated there. Because this has been sitting for a couple hours, so I'm just kind of reconditioning it. This has probably been two hours since I made this first bowl I showed you. I hope that's not too loud. And then I'm going to thin it out. Right now, this is on a setting 2. I'm probably going to do a setting, let me try a setting 3. Hang on, let me look at it. If I run it through on a setting 3. Yep. I think my other ones I did a setting 3. Okay. And then we're going to just cut a nice, so it's not all raggedy, a nice thin strip out of this. And then again, keep all these scraps because I want to make 2 bowls out of this. I mean, I don't know what else you would do with your scraps. Throw them away? I mean, that would be stupid. Well, I hope no one's thrown away because I just said that was stupid. But I've never thrown any. I've only thrown one little batch of scraps away, and it's because I put a medium on it, and then I didn't bake it right off, and it changed the clay. The clay went like all goopy on me. So other than that, I never throw my scraps away. So we'll keep this until that other bowl's done. And then while we're waiting, this bowl, we can also sand it down. So the goal is to get it all flat on because the edges are not even right now. So what? Okay, this is what I did first to make my life easier. was I have these sanding barrels that I've showed you guys in different videos for my Dremel. I first took that and went around the edge just to get off any, because like if my blade was tilted a little bit, it's not going to be flat. So I took this quickly. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just take my Dremel. And this is a project that takes a lot of sanding if you want it to look nice. So I'll take my Dremel, and I don't want to do it over my desk because there's raw clay and stuff. So I'll just drag it along flat like this just to get rid of all this high spots. And then when that's done, I'll show you what we'll do next to try to get it flat. Okay, so I did that with my Dremel, but you don't need your Dremel. That just kind of makes my job a little quicker. You do not need a Dremel to do that. I just have them, so why not use them? So that took off any like uneven edges. Now we're going to put it face down on sandpaper, and I'm going to put some water on this, and we're going to sand it. Now it is really, the noise is horrible. I have to say, it's like really horrible. So if I wet this a little bit, we're just going to put it flat down and sand. My dogs hate this. Okay, and I just keep spinning it because I'm probably putting more pressure where my thumb is. Okay, so I'm going to do this off camera until I think it's all fairly even. And then I will be back because you don't want to listen to that. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And it's on a flat surface, face down. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, if you had a part that dipped down, oh well, I'll show you in a minute. Like if you cut it a little unevenly and there's a part that dips, don't sand it way down to that dip. Just let the dip be, and we'll fill it in a minute. Okay? Try to get it fairly even, but you can see right here, these 2 points are higher than right in the middle here. I'm probably not going to sand it to this little dip right here. Same here. There's a little dip right here. I'm probably not going to sand it all the way down to the dip. I'll probably just make it so it's level. Same with right there. So, it doesn't take much, but a little bit of this you want to do. And if you cut perfectly, you might not have to do any of this. Okay, so this one's out of the oven, and I ran it under water, and I didn't warm the water up enough, so I cracked my bowl, but it's internal. I can't feel the crack. I didn't crack that other one the amount of times I used it because I wasn't being impatient and making a video. So I'm just going to work my way around the edge, there we go, until it pops off. And now we're done with our bowl because we have one now. Now the next thing I need to do is even off the other one. And so one's going to be, on this one I cut one a little shorter than the other, but just a hair. So let me trim this now and get off any of the weird edges, and then we'll see how it fits together, and I'll show you how we're going to seam it together as well. Again, if at this point you want to sand the inside, it would be easier to sand it now. Then when we get it all put together, it's going to be hard to seam the inside when it's all put together, or sand it. So if you want to sand it, feel free. Also, when I did my other ones, when I painted from about, because we're going to put that seam, I painted from about here down and from about here up, so that way the liquid clay can bond. So if you want to paint some of the inside now, just to make it easier on you while it's still separated, I would paint some of it now. You don't need to. When it's all together, you can sponge paint in there or whatever you want to put in there, or just leave it like this if you're using a nice clay. That doesn't look too bad. This one's got a little sanding dust on it, but it doesn't look too bad as far as the inside goes. For the inside of a bowl, I'm going to leave it just like this, because I think this color will be fine with the veneer I'm going to use. But if you had like an ugly, ugly color, you could totally sand it. And later I'll show you my bowls. I did a silver and a gold one already, and I planned on having the gold on the inside, and then I took a scrap and mixed it with silver instead of gold. And then I put the wrong veneer on the wrong one, so I have a gold outside with a silver inside and a silver inside with a gold outside. I'll show you that in a little bit. It's so stupid. But whatever, I'll paint it with a little acrylic paint and it'll be fine. So let me sand my new one off, and when that's done, I'll be right back. Okay, so now they're both sanded off at the edge, and they're both fairly flat, and they will sit together like this. one is a little wider than the other one. So if I show you, the bottom is a little wider than the top, but once I'm done with it, that won't really matter. So I'll just center it as good as I can, and then we'll deal with that later. So the next thing we're going to need is some liquid clay and our strip that we made. So I'm just going to take, oh, actually I'm not using liquid clay, I'm using Bacon Bond because it is meant for this and it is a little stronger than liquid clay. So I'm just going to place a little bit around the rim here and then spread it in. Okay, and then we'll take our long strip that we made here. We're going to wrap it around in there and leave it sticking up some because that's what we're going to attach to the inside. So it's only half covering the bottom and it's going to go half on the top. And slice down, cut the excess off because we don't need that. Okay, and then what I did was just take my finger and smooth this off the best I could. So I'm just going to smush it down to begin with, and then I have a really big ball tool, or ball stylus tool, and I used that to kind of make it a little more flush. Now you'll always see that there's a seam in there, but I mean, I guess it depends how smooth you make it. But again, it's the inside of a bowl, and once I fill this with stuff like pens or pencils or you know, whatever, you're not going to be staring at the inside. So however fancy you want to make this, or however smooth you want to make this, that's your choice. I'm not overly worried about it looking perfect. So I did that at first, and then let me see, where is my big... If I take this and kind of give it a little smush, I can kind of smooth it off a little better. I got this in some flower making kit. I think it was a fondant flower making kit. Has a smaller one on this side too. But obviously when you're not on camera trying to keep your video as short as possible, you can take as much time to smooth this or not, you know. That's totally up to you. I'm only doing it on the edges. Okay, and then kind of tilt these parts in because we want to put the other part on the top. So kind of lean it in like this. Okay, and then this one we need to apply a little liquid clay onto this one too. Spread that around as well. Put our top on, and then we'll smooth that part in there out to this part and kind of smush it on. And again, I took my ball tool and did the same thing in there. Not that you can see really. See? See? You can really smooth it up as much as you want and nitpick at this part as much as you want. So let me smooth it a little more off camera, and when I'm done with that, I'll be back. Okay, so now that my inside's squeezed down, I'm just kind of making sure it's all sitting together. And again, a little part of it's sticking up, but once it's baked, I'll sand that off. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just fill in all these cracks with some liquid clay. I'm just going to kind of squish it right into the crack just to make sure it's nice and sealed. So I'm putting the tip right on there and kind of forcing it down in. Just a little extra security. I'll take my finger and just wipe off any of the excess. But we're going to cover this with a veneer, remember. This is just our base. Okay, and then I'm going to bake this for another 30 minutes, okay, and that will be our bowl to cover with whatever type veneer you want. Now, I hate putting cane slices on perfectly to where they have to match up perfectly. That is not me. So like people put the kaleidoscopes canes on here, make everything match. I hate doing that. So the type of veneers I'm going to be putting on any kind of bowls are going to be veneers where you don't have to match the seams up perfectly of each veneer. The pattern won't call for that. And that's just me. I don't want to have to worry about that. That's not the type of stuff I like to make. I mean, I don't mind putting 4 pieces cane slices down of a pattern, but this is going to take a lot of cane slices and you would have to match every single one up perfectly. But you totally could. You could put whatever you want on this right now. So this is going to be essentially our bowl. A movie came on. So I'll get this in the oven for about another 35 minutes at 275. And it will hold its shape. I'll just set it on the pile and I'll tent it a little bit. And when that's done, and after I'm back from dinner tonight, I'll show you the veneer we're going to make. And maybe tonight or tomorrow we'll apply it. Okay, so our bowl is out of the oven. It's sealed up, it's one solid piece, and it's good to go for whatever veneer. We have one final step to make it actually good to go, and that's just doing a quick sand on the inner rim, which I'll deal with more later, but that way I can wrap my veneer around the edge, and then getting rid of any overhang I have here. You don't need to, but I'm going to. So I'm going to use my Dremel for this, but you could use regular sandpaper, and I'm just going to go around the edge like this until I see that it's all even, or it feels even to my finger. Like this spot here is even. So I'm going to make everything else kind of even like that. And that will just make it easier later when I'm laying on my veneer. So I'll just use this sandpaper wheel like I've showed you before. So again, I've said this many times, I use a Dremel 4000. It's a refurbished one, and it was reconditioned by Dremel. I got it on Amazon. This one has variable speeds, which I like, not just a high-low. It has the on-off button, and it has a lock button. Now, when you hold the lock button down, that's how you loosen and open your chuck. So if you twist one way, that loosens it, and then you put it in, and you tighten the other way, keeping your finger down the whole time, and that will lock it. Give it a little tug, and now it's good to go. Generally when I'm trimming, I only work at about 5 to 15, but this goes all the way up to 35. So I'm just going to drag this around the edges. Again, I'm going to do it off of my desk so I don't get dust everywhere. Just like this, until I see that it's sanding both the top and the bottom. Then I know it's flush because I'm holding it flat. And then I'll just do a quick right around the inside, just to get rid of off any of these little lips. And once that's done, I will show you how to make the veneer we're going to use, based off of Kalyana's faux burl wood, but using different colors. And I'll show you how I applied it. Yeah, and that's it.